First off, we'll just go to spark.adobe.com. You would log in here with your Adobe credentials, and you've got some banners up here that show best practices. Adobe curates on an ongoing basis some examples of the best work out there. If you've already started creating projects, you'll notice that they appear down here, and they can be filtered. Right now it's showing everything. You can look at just static graphic posts. You can look at your Spark pages, which are your interactive, flowing and responsive web pages, or your Spark videos, and that's what we're going to focus on. And of course, you can show everything. And you can show newest to oldest, oldest first, and alpha and reverse alpha order. Now, first off, the circle with the plus sign typically means you're adding content. In this case, we're going to be generating new content, and we would click on that. And of course, it gives you the choice of the three modalities of the platform that you want to use. Graphic is for accessing Spark Post. Web page is for accessing Spark Page. And this is the one we want to focus on here, Spark Video. You'll notice right below that there are a number of canned templates with the design baked right into them. And this allows you to choose something that stylistically resonates with what it is you like or what you feel the job requires, and jump right in there and simply change the text, and you're off to the races. There's clusters of social media content, things that are focused on business promotion, and so on. So templates you can use, or you can start to create your own content. Now, the first thing it wants to know is the title. You can just give it a working title now. At the end, your title really should be a good synthesis of the overall sentiment or theme of your work. Try not to be too literal with it. A little bit of ambiguity and mystery in the title is provocative enough that it makes people want to look further. I'm just going to start this off with sample work. Right off the top, it gives you a number of formats or story scaffolds to choose from. We've really been focusing with the UN goals, the 17 goals, on the promotion of an idea. Trying to promote change, and promoting change requires promoting a change in thinking. Now, if you choose that one, it automatically starts up the scaffold, and in each scaffold there's a slide deck, and each slide in that deck has a set of responses, or prompts rather, that it wants a response for. Every time you start this up, you're given the opportunity to look at some video training content if you think you need it. You'll notice the story scaffolding starts off with the setting, and it goes into describe this in a little greater detail, and it asks here for you to describe the world today. What's the setting or context for your story, or show who you're helping. And if you were to follow that, we'll go to the next slide, and it's talking about the problem. What does the problem or the audience or who you're helping struggle with today? And it follows that all the way through. And if you simply respond to those prompts, you will find later, if you respond to those prompts, you essentially have structured your story. Now, if you want to use your own story structure, that's great too. There's another opportunity. I'm just going to go back. Click here. We'll go back to the main area. Now you'll notice it's generated this blank canvas for me. And if we go to the ellipsis, you can edit, but if you go to the ellipsis, we can just tell it to delete that. You can rename things, duplicate them, or even download the assets to your desktop. I'm going to delete that. This time, when I add content, we'll do this again, and create a new one, and instead of choosing one of the canned story formats, this one on the end allows you to generate your own slides with your own prompts. And you'll notice that the slide deck is blank. So this would allow you to add your own text-based prompt. You just click in here, and maybe it's introduce yourself. Then we can add a new slide, like so. And maybe on the second slide, you can add in more text. Explain what the presentation is about. And so in this fashion, you can start to build up your own custom storyboard or story scaffold for the type of story that you want to tell. So to give you a sense of that, I've already made up a template. Again, I'll just delete this, hit the ellipsis, delete, and I'll let you see one that I've created. Now you can see this one is one that's already put together. And this was my response to the global goal number 13 of climate change. And prior to that, I built out a scaffold to prompt myself. And I just called it storyboard. We'll take a look. And what I did was I began here. I began with a text document where I broke out what it was I was going to say. Now this is actually verbatim, it's a script, and I want to just speak to that for a moment. If you're going to script something very tightly, and sometimes there are legal requirements that force you to have to do that rather than ad-lib, if you are working from a script, try not to read it. The problem with the reading is it's often very wooden, and it lacks a kind of authenticity or conversational tone. Try and rehearse as many times as you want, until you actually own the text, and then there's a greater potential of speaking it naturally at that point. Now I've already started to fill this in, but you can see I've built out all of the storyboard. So I've literally put the text in a script format that I brought from my text over here. And sometimes when I create a script like this, over here in this text document, I'll even put in parentheses suggestions for imagery. There's the next piece of the script, and so on, and so on, and so on. Now, when I work with my students, I don't give them the script. It's really their job to develop the story and the script points. And so what I would have in its place here would just be a simple prompt, asking them to talk about a certain aspect of the subject matter. When we use these prompts, we can look at them and, like I said, try not to read them. Once we've got a prompt like that, you simply hit the record button. And what I do when I start recording is I give a little bit of lead time coming in and a little bit of lag time at the end going out. And that prevents any of the audio from being clipped. Now there's a counter down here that tells you how long you have. And when you get close to the 30-second mark, you will see that counter turning red. And that's just warning you that you're a little too long in the tooth. You've got to shorten things up. Remember, brevity is the soul of wit. So we hold this down and record. That's one change that we can do without. Okay, I didn't like that take. So I simply take it over. That's one change we can do without. To review it, you simply click here. That's one change we can do without. If you're happy with the performance level and the audio level, and you're happy with the sound levels, so just to go over here to music, again, you have a whole range of different canned loops that you can use, and you can preview them just by rolling over and hitting the play button. Or you can add your own music. So if you're musically inclined, you might write your own score. You can even switch the music off. I've probably got it dialed down to around the 5 to 10% mark. I find anything north of that the music starts to dominate. And that's fine if you want to have a very contemplative slide with even no voice in it and simply playing some music with a visual. That's great. You should know, though, that this volume is constant throughout the entire presentation. You can't control local volume on the slide level. You would add your music, dial it down, like I said, below 10% somewhere. That's what I seem to find work. And then you can record your slide. That's one change we can do without. Review it. That's one change we can do without. And you would just continue on like that and do your voice recording. And at that point, you can go back over and look for assets to put in the background. Right now, I'm just going to delete this because I've already performed this, so I can delete the text. And then I have the option of adding in content. Now, if I want, I can go to Theme, and I can choose an overarching theme that I feel is appropriate for my presentation. Every time you roll over a theme, it shows you the types of transitions that it uses when you have a split slide or you have a text slide. It's showing you how it animates it. And it's all different depending on the type of theme you choose for your presentation. At this point, I want to add in a symbol, icon, and I can search it here in the database, and I'm going to look for something, stop sign. And there we go. I'm just going to drop that in, and I can take a look again at how this plays out. That's one change we can do without. Okay, I think that works nicely. And so, slide by slide, this is the approach that I take. Of course, when you want to look at the entire thing, slide after slide, you can go back to the beginning on your slide and then hit this play button down here. And that plays the entire thing. Change is a buzzword politicians never seem to tire of. Sadly, the only change happening is climate change. That's one change we can do without. Now, if you just want a preview from a particular spot, you can click that slide, hit the ellipsis, and then say play from here. Now, you'll notice that I brought video in there. And I'm just going to click on that, and we'll do it again just to see how that happens. And you locate your video. There's my hurricane video. I bring that in. You'll notice that it just creates a clip length that is the equivalent of the voiceover length. So if I've already added the voice track, it knows, look, I've taken 5 seconds to say what I said on that slide, so just bring that in as a 5-second clip. Now I can move that around to determine where that 5 seconds of video will begin and end. I'm just going to play it from there. I can preview it. And I don't know if you can hear that, but there's definitely wind whistling in the background. You'll notice a button here that says align with narration, in which case it would align up the video with the talking that's going on. So I'm just going to save that. Once you brought a video in, you can choose the zoom to create a higher degree or lesser degree of intimacy with the content. If you click the ellipsis, you can change the trim points on the video, and you can continue the clip onto another slide if need be. Now, as far as volume is concerned, I'm going to mute that. I don't want it interfering with the voiceover. The default is usually soft. However, if the clip contains audio that's crucial, you would set that to loud. At least I found that in my own situation. I'm just going to mute that video. We've chosen a theme. Now, resize allows you to use an HD video format or a square format. And the reason for the square, obviously, is the immense popularity of content posting on social media platforms like Instagram, which has revived the square format. We've chosen our music and we've dialed it down to an appropriate level. The only thing we haven't looked at, we'll go to another slide for this, is layout. And you can present your content in a number of different ways. So here's title and subtitle. That would be more appropriate for chapter headings or the beginning of your presentation. Captioned elements, split screen, or complete full screen graphic. And if you use split screen, you'll notice that you can apply content on the right hand side, or you can flip it here and we can have the text on the right, and here we could bring in a piece of imagery maybe we'll use a photograph in this case. And again, you have access to some royalty-free images here. But if you back up at this position, you can upload your own photography. You can go to Adobe Stock and license photography or use watermarked images. If you've got things loaded in your Creative Cloud, you could bring those things in there. And Lightroom, Dropbox, Google Photos, and Google Drive is also accessible. So many channels for accessing assets. I'm simply going to go back to Find Free Photos. Hurricane. Let's see what that looks like. That looks very catastrophic. I'm just going to put that in. So there we have it. An image, and at any time you could change that to video or to an icon at any stage. We could preview that. I'm going to record this. If we fail to change our impact on our planet, there will be catastrophic consequences. If we fail to change our impact on our planet, there will be catastrophic consequences. And again, you can take it back to any point and play it from that point just to see how the transitions work. That's one change we can do without. If we fail to change our impact on our planet. That's my process for how I build a typical presentation. Now, again, like I said, sometimes I just put a talking point or a prompt in there. And that's simply part of the story scaffolding that I would use. When you're finished, you can preview the whole thing here. You could download an MP4 video and distribute it however you wanted, or bring it into another editing program like Adobe Premiere Pro, and you would share that. That's your way of publishing it. You give it a title and a storyboard title. Pick a category. I'm going to use education, and you can ensure that it's cited to you as the author and that it could be promoted by Adobe's website. When you're ready, you would create that link. And I would imagine if a lot of people are trying to publish simultaneously across the globe, that the time to and from the server could be considerable. But I've never found it to be any more than a couple of minutes at most. And that's probably during a very busy time. When your video is finished, you can copy the link and push it out through a number of popular social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, Google Classroom, email, or the embed code, which is really handy because you can copy the embed code and then paste that into your learning journals. When you've produced your own video, you'll be able to then create your learning journal in Adobe Spark Page and then embed that video. Now, if you make any content changes, it's really important to update your links, because if you don't do that, it's still registering that URL, the unique URL here, to outdated content. So you need to hit the update link button, and there we have it. I can copy that link, or I can copy the embed code here and use that in my Adobe Spark page. Okay, well that's it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that this helps you.